Wealth, fame, and power. Sorry, that's the wrong intro. I meant wealth, greed, and selling out. Yes, that is everything that can be said about this long-running Power Rangers franchise. That's right, welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be going over every single Power Rangers series. That's right, if you've never seen Power Rangers or you just want a refresher on the franchise, this video is perfect for you. But of course, we also need to answer another question. What has made this long-running franchise so successful, and why do so many people care about it? So, without further ado, there's only one place to start. Okay, so basically in the 70s, Toei had the licensing rights to make a Spider-Man show in Japan, and so they did. And the show, while it's not the most successful, what came from it is pretty big. Even now to this day, the show has kind of developed its own cult following. In the show, he transforms into a suit, and he has a giant robot named Leopardon, and it's a whole lot of nonsensical stuff and classic Toku bullshit, right? Long story short, people in Japan love the idea of this tightly colored superhero and giant robots and fighting villains and practical effects, and so we got our first Super Sentai named Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. And so came many great tokusatsu shows about people in colorful tight suits fighting evil villains, striking crazy poses, and of course, the classic big robot trope. And so eventually, after some unsuccessful attempts to bring the show over to America, well, Saban Entertainment bought the American rights, and so Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was born. That's right, and now we can get into our first era. So, if you're curious as to why there's two eras within the same era, basically Saban owned the rights to distribute Power Rangers, create Power Rangers in America, things like that. But this is known as the Zordon era because in universe, this time was when Zordon was the only reoccurring character in all of these shows. So, what is MMPR about? Well, basically when evil sorceress Rita Repulsa is released from her space prison, Zordon must recruit 5 teenagers with attitude. Yeah, why didn't he get, like, some military people? I don't know. Nobody really knows. They use their dinosaur-themed Megazords and martial arts skills to defend the Earth from Rita's monstrous forces. And of course, there's iconic villains, iconic side characters, and nothing but fun Toku American nonsensical stuff where you're like, why would they do this? And you're just kind of gotta accept it sometimes. Obviously, you know this story. Everybody knows the story. Everybody knows Power Ranger. There's nothing that I can't say about this original show that hasn't been said. We're still seeing things about it to this day. People have so much nostalgia for it. People love it so much. And it's great to see that so many of us have this shared opinion because we all grew up with this show. This show would continue on for 2 more seasons. And technically would continue on after that. But Mighty Morphin Power Rangers itself was only 3 seasons long. And in the span of 3 seasons, a lot of things changed. In Season 2, obviously, the Red, Yellow, and Black Ranger were all replaced. And then, of course, in Season 3, the Yellow Ranger was replaced once again. And for a short period in Season 3, they even introduced the Alien Rangers, where the main cast was kids, and they can't have powers as kids, which doesn't make sense because in Turbo, we have a kid ranger. Some of the pros and cons of this show, though. It's obviously an iconic and nostalgic show. Everybody knows that. The show introduced the franchise and became a cultural phenomenon since the show did rely heavily on Super Sentai, because the way they filmed this show is Super Sentai, obviously they had their own shows over there in Japan, and so they would send over the footage, and American footage would be shot with the actors outside the suits and, you know, sometimes in the suits. And they would just try to fuse the two together to create a cohesive narrative. And most of the time this works, but there is cases where it's very noticeable that it's not them or that things are off. This is especially the case in Season 2 because they kept the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger suits, but they borrowed the Dire Ranger Megazords, and they're fighting MMPR villains, and so you can see there's a lot of scenes where the Dire Ranger Megazord doesn't actually hit the villains from MMPR, and it's just kind of a mashup of scenes, and Yeah, I mean, it's a whole lot of complex bullshit, but most of the time you're not going to notice it. And even when you do, it's kind of fun, it's kind of nostalgic. Fun fact about this show, the Green Ranger, yes, the infamous Green Ranger, Tommy Oliver, was initially meant to be a temporary ranger, but people loved him so much that he became a permanent part of the show. But yeah, that is it for MMPR. Following the destruction of the original Power Coins, the Rangers must gain new powers from the Zeo Crystal, facing off against the Machine Empire, a robotic faction. Yes, this is the incredibly famous and in some ways a better show to what is MMPR, and with a cast MMPR being such a huge success, the cast mostly returned with a couple sad changes. Of course, being a sequel that introduced new Zords, new suits, new powers, and they continued on the continuity that existed with MMPR. Now, in terms of cons though, while yeah, the show was very visually interesting, very different, the villains didn't really hit the same. Rita and Zed were kind of a little too iconic, and you know, just kind of switching over to the Machine Empire and forgetting about them didn't necessarily resonate with everybody. Not everybody fucked with it, but it's okay because Sentai, so what were they gonna do? So while the Power Rangers received new turbo powers in the form of cars, why would they receive car themed powers? To fight the evil Divatox, a space pirate with a vendetta against them. The team later transitions to a new set of Rangers, including a child, Justin. See, why does the child now have powers, but they couldn't have powers earlier when they were kids? I don't know. Even Zordon has left. Turbo is pretty divisive. It kind of changed everything halfway through. New mentor, new cast of characters, new everything. And this is because, up to this point, these actors have basically been doing this for the better half of the early 90s. They wanted to move on, man. They wanted to do other things with their lives. And so this show did what basically every season from this point on will do, which is that every new season will introduce essentially a new cast of characters, a new story, so on and so forth. Of course, so in terms of the pros for this franchise, y'all would be lying if you didn't tell me that the car-themed aesthetic did not look so beautiful when it came to the Megazords, because holy shit, these Megazords are so good looking, so sick. In terms of cons, there's a couple different ones. First of all, the tonal shift really did not resonate with everyone. Not to say that Power Rangers was extraordinarily goofy, but Turbo became a lot sillier of a show, especially in comparison to Zeo, as well as the fact that not everybody was a fan of Justin. But yeah, that is Turbo. Taking place literally minutes after the end of Turbo, the Rangers take their battle into outer space, seeking Zordon to fight Astronema and her army. This season culminates in a grand battle that changes the franchise forever. So, what's happened here? Basically, Turbo Rangers, they've gone into space without Justin because he's a child, and they meet a new guy named Andros, and Andros is like, hey, you want to become the Power Rangers in space? And they're like, okay, cool. In terms of pros for the show, it is a much more mature and serialized story. If you didn't like the tonal shift in Turbo, you're gonna love this. This shit is dark, and it's a lot better, and it's really, really good. This has one of the best finales in the whole franchise, because, well, in case you didn't know, this was supposed to be the end of Power Rangers. This was supposed to be the end of the Zordon era, and so he shows up, and without really spoiling too much, basically the story is concluded with him in the show, and we have a very nice fairy tale happy ending. Now, fun fact though, kind of tying back to the fact that this was supposed to be the original show, the fans basically saved this show from cancellation. Also, they collabed with the Ninja Turtles. Very weird collab, but a good one? While Zordon is no longer in universe in the show, right, events from the Zordon era are mentioned and brought up and kind of have to do with the ongoing story. This is the first brand new Ranger team that isn't formed with at least one member returning from the previous season. It is completely new, and this is formed aboard the space colony Terra Venture. And in the show, they face off against the insectoid Scorpius and later Trachina. Now, this season is very dark. If you thought Space was dark, well, this season actually features a significant character death. Why is that character death important? Well, because it showed that Power Rangers, yes, while it is a kids show, there's stakes to this. This is a show about characters risking their lives, fighting for what's good, and of course there's gonna be casualties. There will be things to go wrong. The shift from space exploration to traditional Earthbound battles in later episodes did feel a bit inconsistent, especially because this whole show takes place on a space colony, so it felt a little bit weird. But yeah, moving on. A government-run Power Rangers team is formed to battle demons threatening Mariner Bay. Unlike previous seasons, the Rangers are actually adult professionals. Also, the Power Ranger suits and Megazords in the show are man-made, which we have not seen up to this point. The Power Rangers' powers actually derive from this source called the Morphin Grid. It is a source of energy. Usually ancient civilizations or aliens or whatever have gotten their hands on it. But in this show, they finally showed that humans can actually also tap into the Morphin Grid and get powers from it as well, and so that's what they did. This season introduced a very new, realistic take on Power Rangers, which a lot of people really enjoyed. It showed all the complaints from MMPR about how, why didn't they just get people who know shit? This is the people who know shit. Because of this, you have a very well-structured team and a very professional dynamic. The villains were a little weak. They were a little bit underdeveloped, and they had a less compelling overarching story. Fun fact though about this show is that this was the first season here in America to introduce an American exclusive Ranger in the form of the Titanium Ranger. And of course, as you know, this is not the first time this would happen. We're going to see this a lot more in the franchise. A group of Time Force officers from the year 3000 travel back in time to stop the criminal Ransik, enlisting an ancestor of the Red Ranger to complete their team. It is one of the most well-written shows, featuring emotional depth, character development, and a villain that it is so compelling. The stakes have never felt higher in the show, and it's great to see this more mature tone develop into such a good story. And now, with that being said though, some of the cons, you know, this is nothing new with Power Rangers, but because time travel elements are introduced, there's a couple plot holes, to say the least, that were never really fully addressed. Fun fact about the show though, Ransik, played by Vernon Wells, up to this point was one of the most well-written and complex villains in the franchise, showing remorse and redemption by the finale. And it's great to see that transition, and of course his design is disgustingly good. A group of Rangers connected to ancient animal spirits protect the world from the Orgs, led by Master Org. They also reside and fight on a giant flying turtle island. I mean, it's pretty sick. I won't lie. Now, in terms of pros for the show, the costumes, stunning, beautiful. The show has a very strong environmental message, and the show also gives us the legendary Forever Red team-up episode, which is a team-up of all the Red Rangers up to this point, as this is an anniversary season. And of course, this idea and trope would be so iconic that it basically was copied for almost every season up to this point, where Power Rangers teams would collab with each other and they would have a crossover episode and it'd be fun and jazzy. Yay, cool, right? Cons. This show, the acting was a little inconsistent, let's be for real. And the villains they weren't really as engaging as past seasons. Fun fact, Wild Force was the last Power Ranger season to produce by Saban Entertainment right before he sold the franchise to who? The big mouse himself, Disney. Yup. And before it was sold, it was that this was going to be the end of Power Rangers, and hence why this show also has a big finale, a huge one, a really good one. But sadly, as we know, we are about to enter the So, we've made it to the Disney era. And what is the first entry here? Well, three students from a hidden ninja academy become the Wind Rangers to battle the evil Lothar, later joined by the Thunder Rangers and the Green Samurai Ranger. This show is good. This show is really fun. From this point going forward, all shows in Power Rangers would be filmed in New Zealand, and so there you will see a lot of consistent landmarks. And now, in terms of pros for the show, it's got a lighthearted tone. This doesn't make it a bad thing because there's a lot of good, strong character chemistry and fun ninja action. Also, it has one of the best openings ever made. But if you want to learn more about my thoughts on Power Rangers openings and this opening specifically, you're just going to have to watch this video right here. Cons. So the villains in the show, while entertaining, they were more comedic than they were evil, and just didn't really work for everybody. This also made them feel a little bit weaker, but yeah. Moving on. Three high schoolers gain Dino Gems that grant them the Power Rangers to fight the evil Mesogog. They are mentored by Tommy Oliver, the legendary Green Ranger, now a paleontologist who later becomes the Black Ranger in the show. Pretty cool, right? Dino Thunder is form and function once again. They took the Teenagers of Attitude idea and they revitalized it and they retooled it to fit this new early to mid 2000 teenage demographic, and it worked. One of the biggest pros of the show is that it's a fantastic mix of nostalgia and fresh storytelling, with Tommy's return being a big highlight of the show, but also it not only elevated his character, but it elevated the rest of the cast, because you have this cast of Rangers now being trained by a former Ranger, which really is unheard of. In terms of cons though, a lot of people complain that the show did focus a lot on the Red Ranger, kind of sidelining other characters at times, so, you know. The year is 2025. Wait a second. Wait, it's SPD year. What the fuck? Space Patrol Delta recruits a team of cadets to protect Earth from Emperor Groom's alien invasion. Ooh, SPD, man. Shit, we made it. We're living SPD as we speak. This is awesome. In terms of pros for the show, this show had incredible world building and a great ensemble cast with complex character dynamics. By the time we get to SPD, aliens are living on Earth, and if you've seen Once and Always, you see that this is kind of established. I love that they've connected the two. But fun fact about the show, this is only the second season where the Red Ranger wasn't actually supposed to be the Red Ranger. In Lost Galaxy, Leo's brother was supposed to be the Red Ranger, but then he got the Quasar Saber. And in this show, Jack was arrested and given the option to be the Red Ranger or stay in jail, and so he decided to be the Red Ranger and lead the team for just the season alone. Pretty cool. A new team of teens discovers their magical abilities and becomes the Mystic Rangers to battle the evil Mortcon and later the Master of Darkness. It's a very Harry Potter show. I mean, even the Morpher is supposed to look like a wand. They have capes. They fly on brooms. It's very Harry Potter coded. Because of the more fantastical nature of magic, it led way to some really cool special and practical effects and some really fun moments in the show. But with that, this is actually one of the shortest lived seasons. It only has 32 episodes, and as a result, it kind of told a very rushed story that not everybody got behind, especially when it came to the Red Ranger, whose story felt a little bit undercooked. Now the Power Rangers must go on a global treasure hunt to find powerful relics before the Alliance of Villains does. It is a very adventurous and very fun and silly and wacky adventure show, and because of this wacky and fun storytelling, it's kind of got weak character development and unmemorable villains, and because of it, it's kind of become one of the least popular seasons. But fun fact, with this being the 15th anniversary of the TV show, we've of course got another big team up in that of Once a Ranger that brought back past Rangers, including Adam and the Green Ranger from SPD, who's now the Red Ranger. But he was the Blue Ranger at the end of the series. It's great. It's awesome. Three martial artists trained in animal-based kung fu become the Jungle Fury Power Rangers to stop the evil Dai Shi. This show has some beautiful martial arts and some unique spirit-based power-ups. This show feels so different in such a good way. With that being said though, this show doesn't have a traditional mentor figure, because the mentor figure in the show is actually the leader of this team, but he's not the Red Ranger. He actually becomes the Wolf Ranger. It's really fun and it's really great, and he adds a lot to this cast and to these characters, and he does a great job training them and guiding them in the right direction. And just like Lightspeed Rescue, original Rangers were made for this American version in that of the Spirit Rangers. Pretty cool. Set in a dystopian future where an AI virus named Vengeance has taken over the world, a small group of Power Rangers must fight to protect humanity's last city. You want to talk about settings? This is the darkest setting we've had in Power Rangers. This is literally the apocalypse. The dark and mature storytelling really does a lot for the show. It creates these very deep characters. This also kind of becomes a con, because if you couldn't tell already, this is set in its own universe. And because of that, it felt very far away. It felt like there was a lack of connection between this show and other Power Rangers teams and seasons. The showrunner, Eddie Guzelian, was actually inspired by Mad Max and Terminator when crafting this story in this world. And more fun facts, this is supposed to be the last season of Power Rangers. Hence the reason why this world and this season is so crazy, because Disney basically gave them all creative control. They said, yeah, go do whatever the fuck you want. And so that's what they did. And fuck, they went all the way. They went all the way. Hence the drastic setting and the very meta commentary. And for a couple years, this was the last series. That was until... Oh, so by this point, Saban, now known as Neo Saban, had bought back the franchise. Instead of immediately going towards a new show, they just ran reruns of MMPR on TV. But eventually, they would release their newest show. A new generation of Power Rangers inherits the samurai powers to battle the Nightlock army led by Master Xandred. Shinkenger is one of the best Super Sentais I've ever seen. Samurai, it's got some cool fighting scenes and some strong visuals. This story felt like such a straight copy of Super Sentai of Shinkenger, and it did not do it well. This show did not do it well. It's not the best show. But fun fact about the show, it was actually the first season to have a female Red Ranger. Sort of, kind of. Lauren, she showed up and she was hyped up to be this really crazy cracked out Ranger, and then they didn't really do much with her. Also, while Saban did own the shows, each new team would no longer just be one season, they would now be 2 seasons, and with the second season being labeled Super in front of it. Why? Kids shows. We've made it to the 20th anniversary of the franchise, and so the Power Rangers must initially fight the War Star aliens before gaining the ability to transform into passive Power Ranger teams to battle the Armada. Yeah, the concept sounds a lot better than the actual show is. This show, the only good elements about it are the things that are derived from Gokaigers, specifically in that they have this ability to transform into passive Power Ranger teams and use their powers, which is really, really cool. But in terms of cons though, well, let's get started. First of all, weak writing, lack of character development, and of course, the most disappointing legendary battle. A shit ton of plot holes. There's a lot of Super Sentai that existed before Power Rangers MMPR. Those suits show up in the show, and it's never really acknowledged. And when it is, it's not done well. They have 2 suits, don't really go inside with one another. Well, basically, it was the 35th anniversary for Japan and the 20th anniversary for America. The issue is that Saban wanted to follow in the anniversary, but the numbers were a little bit off, and so they opted to combine 2 Super Sentai seasons into 1 Power Ranger show. It didn't really work. The first was an angel-themed team with this very angelic and beautiful looking design, and the second was space pirates. What's the connection? Well, there's a simple explanation. Fun fact, kind of sad fact though, despite many returning Power Rangers cameos, most of the original actors were not actually even given speaking roles. It's pretty sad. These Rangers must harness the power of the Energems to battle Sledge and later Zord Arcanine, preventing them from using the powerful artifacts for evil. This is a good show. It's a fun show. Saban, Neo Saban, they actually cooked for a bit. And because of that, it's got engaging characters, it's a lot of fun, and the mix of dinosaur themes and adventure really resonated with audiences. But in terms of cons for the show, the second season, Super Dino Charge, it suffered a lot from a very convoluted plot with a lot of twists that came out of nowhere. And fun fact about the show, this is actually the first season to feature a female Purple Ranger, which is really cool, really fun. A new team of ninja-themed Power Rangers fight against an intergalactic warrior game show called Galaxy Warriors. Let's just talk about the pros. This show had some pretty creative action sequences and was sometimes sort of funny. Cons though, weak villains and a lack of meaningful stakes really made the show feel forgettable. Nothing feels like it matters. It's not it. Now, finally, that has brought us into our final era. That's right. Well, Neo Saban felt like a very short era, and that's because it was. Hasbro gave us fans so much hope when it initially began, and it let us down just as fast. So, for now, we need to go over our next show. Beast Morphers had 2 seasons, but there is no Super Beast Morphers. It is just Beast Morphers Season 2, thank goodness. But in a city powered by Morphex energy, 3 Rangers are chosen to fight Evox, a rogue AI virus. Ooh, this show's pretty good. It's actually pretty alright. The engaging spy-themed elements and well-balanced characters really added a lot to the show, and like I said, it gave us fans a lot of hope. The biggest con of the show is that storylines felt kind of rushed or unresolved. The end of the show just kind of hits you like a train and it just stops. This show actually kind of works as a sequel to RPM. Because it's actually revealed that Evox is actually Vengeance in disguise, which is really cool, really great. It's a really great payoff for something that us fans have been waiting for so long. Yeah, so this time, the Season 2, it's not called Super Dino Fury. It's not even just Dino Fury Season 2, it's Cosmic Fury. So, let's start at the beginning. A new team protects the morphing grid from intergalactic threats, including the villainous Void Queen. And just like Beast Morphers, this show was pretty well received. It had some pretty strong storytelling, some very well developed characters, and emotional stakes. It felt like we were going back in the right direction. Now, with that being said though, the biggest con is that Season 2 had some pretty bad pacing issues. Season 2 of Dino Fury is called Cosmic Fury because they tried to do something new. Instead of adapting the next season, which would be Q Ranger, they created new suits, new weapons, and rather than just make new Megazords, because why would they do that? They just adapted the Q Ranger Megazords. Though I really wish they used those suits. Those suits are really good looking. And this was cool. This was actually really fun because it showed that Power Rangers was now doing its own thing. Yes, they could still bring over elements from Super Sentai, but for the most part, it would be independent. And this was great. As up to this point, Super Sentai and Power Rangers had already begun splitting away. Seeing them develop their own identities was really great. One other cool fact about this show is that it was the first season to introduce the permanent female Red Ranger. Yes, it only took us this long, guys. It only took us this long. Amelia was great, really great. And this is a really great direction for the show, right? They even developed a Netflix special, which served as a love letter to MMPR. With these 2 projects, the future of Power Rangers looked bright, right? Well, that's it. Been nearly 2 years, and we've made it to the end. So, if you're looking for some kind of glorious finale or some incredible send-off, you're not gonna get that. Hasbro doesn't actually have plans for any future Power Rangers season. After Cosmic Fury, people were kind of unsure of what the future of Power Rangers looked like, but we sadly got our answer when it was revealed that Hasbro was auctioning off everything Power Rangers related. Not just recent stuff, everything. And this, to say, was very divisive. What made this worse is that there was plans for a Power Rangers show and movie at Netflix, which are now cancelled. Even so, there's still hope, because Hasbro has actually announced a new live-action Power Rangers show in the works for Disney. Now, that doesn't mean it's being produced by Disney, it just means it's gonna air on Disney. But if you do enjoy people in really tight colored suits, well, look to Japan, because Super Sentai is flourishing. I mean, especially with the new season Gozuger, a lot of people are loving it. People are getting into Super Sentai. It's really great. And of course, here in the US, we have the iconic, really amazing Boom Comics that everybody's loving, which includes exclusive All-American suits and even brings back some of those older Super Sentai suits and repurposes them in ways that feel good, nice, new. It's really fun. So, all in all, that was an overview of the Power Rangers franchise. That kind of brings us back to our original question. What has made this franchise last so long? Why do people care about it? These shows are about being good people. It's about helping each other out and showing that the world isn't all too bad. And that's exactly what's made it work. Look at how many times the fans have saved this show from cancellation. And even now, fans are still fighting to save the show from cancellation. And that's what's made this franchise work. It's a great message to what it means to be human and the human condition, even if it is told through the lens of people in colorful suits. But if you're new to this channel, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for being here. I encourage you to subscribe. I love making these type of videos, and I would love to keep making them in the future. So obviously your support is welcome. If not, it's all good. I still appreciate you being here, and of course taking the time out of your day to watch me talk about spandex. Until next time, see you, Space Cowboys.